Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Nikki Maduro Show with myself and Kim McAllister. And Kim,
yes,
happy first full day of spring. The spring equinox has begun. I don't know. I mean, I hate doing this because I feel like we do it every year, every season. Somebody has to say it. Doesn't this year seem like it's flying by? Like, I just feel like we're in spring. I don't know. I feel like we're rushing towards something, and politically, I'm like, I don't want to be rushing towards anything politically, but I am so happy that spring is here, even though rain's supposed to come this weekend, like whatever, right? So what is it? April showers bring May flowers or something like that. So it's not April yet, but we're going to get some rain this weekend. Thanks everyone for joining us. So Kim, you really missed out last night. I'm just going to let you know.
Really? Mean Girls.
So for everybody that doesn't know, I went last night with some coworkers. We were trying. I just want you guys to know, I have not seen, hugged, been in the same room with Kim McAllister since we got laid off from KGO.
It's true.
It's weird to say that because we've worked together nearly every day. Probably see you more than I ever did before. But we were trying to go see Mean Girls together with two of our coworkers. We went last night. If anyone hasn't, go see it. It is so good. You would have so enjoyed it, Kim, because I know you love musical theater like I do. It was amazing. The woman, the young lady that plays Janice, who is like the friend that convinces Katie to spy on the plastics and Mean Girls.
Right.
Amazing voice. Hold on, let me just give her a shout out. Not like it really matters, but who played Janice? Her name was, I love looking at all the spelling, all this, Alexis, but she spells it Alexys because,
Alexis. Yes,
Alexis Morera. I mean, my God, her voice. It was really well done. So shout out to the Mean Girls Broadway San Jose last night at the San Jose Convention Center or Center for the Performing Arts. It was so much fun. Really, really missed you. It was funny though. You'll totally understand this, Kim. I am having dinner with someone who has, I would guess that Nora is a toddler. I consider her a toddler now.
Sure.
She's almost walking, right? Toddler. Yeah, something like that. And then our other friend, we call her Mud, is pregnant. And they're looking at me like I'm giving them advice. I'm like, I am in the throes of preteen and teenagerhood. I'm like, what you guys are experiencing, just freaking enjoy it. Because if you think you can't sleep now, just wait.
Oh my God.
Just wait. And I felt like I was scaring them. They were cracking up, but I felt like I was scaring them. But it was amazing how totally different circumstances. We're all moms and soon to be moms, right? Circumstances that we were in and just the issues. It's like, Carolyn's trying to get her daughter to eat, right? Or not be so sassy or whatever, right? And obviously Mud's, waiting for the day to come where she gets to hold her baby. And I'm just like, my kids are talking about kids at school that are pregnant. You know what I mean? Like totally different. Totally
my
different.
God. Julia hasn't said that yet. I'm sure that's coming.
Oh my God. It's, just stories from high school of like what these kids are doing. But anyways, it's just, it was a great time. I highly recommend going to the Mean Girls play if you can, if you enjoy that sort of thing. But they did a really, really good job. And
That's fun. I'm sorry
kudos.
I missed it.
I know. We're going to plan something else, maybe more north, so your way, so we can make it happen because they send their love. And they really, really miss you. So there you go.
Sweet.
It was so good to see them.
Yesterday,
Go ahead.
I spent 2.5 hours in my car yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, what were you doing?
I would pull into the driveway and a kid would hop in. Somebody has to go to karate. Great. We
Oh
come
yeah,
home
hop
from
on
karate.
in. Yep.
The car rolls into the driveway. Julia gets in. I need you to take me to Target. I need more pencils.
Yeah.
Off we go to Target. I come back in. Julia gets back in the car. I need you to take me to a friend's house so I can go on a walk. Go in. I'm like, every time I roll back into the driveway, someone's back
Somebody
in
else.
trying to go somewhere
I'm
else.
telling you, we need to
Yeah.
get those like lights that they put on taxi cabs or like Domino's pizza trucks or
know.
whatever, and just like ding, ding, ding. Except we don't get tipped. We get paid in attitude. At least my house. I'm like, oh, you need me to do something for you, but no, I had to preface everything. My kids are great. Like it's just those, it's the throes of parenthood, people. It's just
Yeah.
throes of parenthood. I love Chris's comment. I spent 6 months in reform school with all the pregnant teens. My goodness, man. But yeah, the movie but was it 20 years ago that Mean Girls came out? Probably. I don't know. The years keep passing by. No, but they turned it into a musical. The movie's great. They just released the movie musical of the movie from whatever 20 years ago or whatever. But yeah, it was really, really well done. Got to park around the house and then sneak into the side of the house.
Totally
Can you
true.
imagine like a parent trying to sneak just back home so they could sit on their couch for 20 minutes? Exactly.
How about walk to your walk? That's good.
I was gonna say the same thing, but if it could be kind of far away, I would assume
It was across town. Yeah.
it was across town where they're doing all the bipping.
She wanted to walk with a friend.
Okay, well that's good. Get some exercise.
Yeah. The friend said, "I wish I could go on a walk, but I have no one to go with." Julia's like, "I'll come."
I'll go with you. That's
Sure.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter's getting skateboarding. And now that it's nicer out, I mean, like you all know by now, tons of bikes, right? So take a bike, everybody get a bike, go ride your bike. So really excited about that. But yeah, there's a street next to our street that is newly paved. So my daughter likes to take her skateboard around the corner and just
Smooth.
ride that street over and over again. But then one of her friends lives, I'm not even kidding, 0.3 miles away, like totally walking distance.
Oh,
Can you
that's
take me?
close.
And I'm like, why?
No.
Walk. I have to be there right now. It's 5 minutes. Like it's not that hard. I also want to give a shout out, by the way. A really interesting conversation I was having with our coworkers when we were walking from the place where we ate dinner. Shout out to Serious Dumplings. I should have taken pictures, but I was so hungry and I'm bummed, but I'm going to go back. Serious Dumplings obviously has dumplings. They had this monk fruit glass noodle mushroom dumpling. It was green. Oh my God, it was so good because Mud is a vegetarian. And so she ordered that. Bomb. If you guys are in downtown San Jose, delicious. But our other friend, Carolyn, we were walking from the restaurant to the Center for the Performing Arts. And she's like, oh my God, downtown San Jose is so nice and clean. And I was looking around and look, San Jose has the encampments. And I told him like, but then I was looking around. I was extremely proud of my downtown. It was.
You.
It was. And I was like, look at us. Like, obvious. And she's like, I know. She's like, every city has it. But like, I feel totally safe walking. And it was, by the time we walked over, it was 7:00. So it was getting a little dusk. And then, but obviously by the time we left, it was nighttime and we walked. And we walked her to her car because she was in a parking garage. And she's like, it's too dark in there. So we walked her, but I totally felt safe. It was still hustling and bustling cars and everything. So shout out to my hometown, downtown, because these outsiders came in and it was really, really nice to see, because sometimes when you live someplace, you don't notice. And I looked up, I was like, it is really clean right now. So yay, very, 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 very proud of everybody. So
how did the baby do at the musical?
Oh, the baby wasn't there.
Oh, I thought
Laura
the baby
wasn't
was
there. Oh no.
Got it. Okay.
No.
I was gonna say she brought the baby, but
no,
okay.
we were just talking about the babies.
Okay, got
you
it,
know
all
what I
right.
mean? Like, when you're with a bunch of mom, what else are you going to talk about?
okay.
But, we did a little, catching up and everything, which was really, really nice. And it was great seeing them and they're doing well. And, it's just a stage in my life that I remember, but I'm definitely not in anymore. You know what I mean? So it was definitely fun to reminisce and things like that. And yes, downtown San Jose was awesome. And again, if you go to downtown San Jose, Serious Dumplings, really, really yummy. They make soup dumplings and all sorts of dumplings. So go check them out. Okay, let's click the thumbs up button. Show your support for the show. We really do appreciate it. The super chat is also live. It's a way for you guys to support this show. If you like hopping on YouTube in the morning, during the week and seeing myself and seeing Kim McAllister. We only do it because you guys support the show. So Super Chat is one of the ways you can do it. You can buy a super sticker, super thanks. And if you do a super comment during the live show, we'll read it live on the show. And then 2 of the number 1 ways to support the show consistently is 1 through our Patreon. So just go to thenikkimadoroshow.com. Our Patreon link is there. It's 1 time a month. Think of it like a tip, a monthly tip for the show, whatever you can afford. We appreciate it. And then we love PayPal. So go to paypal.com, hit the send button, and then just put in the email address, thenikkimadoroshow@gmail.com. And you can put in whatever you can afford there as well. And we do appreciate it. We can't do the show without you. You know, it's not like we're bringing in tons of money. And so we really want to continue doing the show and to financially be able to do it as well. Okay. Coming up today, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. Obviously, we're keeping an eye on the Texas immigration law. So it was going to go into effect and now it's on hold again and they're going to be going over it. And so what are the unintended consequences of that? You know, we'll kind of delve into that. Also, despite the ban on Roe v. Wade, despite the overturning of Roe v. Wade, more than 1 million abortions were provided in 2023. It's almost as if Americans like having the option to have an abortion if they want it. And there's this Arizona. Now, she's a Democratic senator, but she's from Arizona. So obviously a red. I will not say it's purple. It is a red state. I'm sorry. Red State, Eva Birch. I'm going to play you a good chunk of it because, it's almost 10 minutes long, so I don't want to play the whole entire thing. But we'll maybe pause it and restart it and kind of give our thoughts on it. But she's having an abortion, or she did have an abortion. I can't quite tell if she had it already or she's about to have it. She found out that her, I think she did have it. She found out that her pregnancy was not viable. But the speech that she gave on the floor should horrify people. Because she was saying, my doctor was telling me things that we both knew weren't true. We both, it was misinformation. It was conversations we didn't need to have simply because of the overturning of Roe and them wanting to protect themselves. And so that's the consequence of the overturning of Roe and the desperation of people, that are losing reproductive access. Did you hear about that Minnesota pharmacist? Actually, no, this wasn't in Minnesota. Sorry. A Minnesota court rules a pharmacist who denied contraception discriminated against women. We will talk about that. But it's this married nurse. Washington State. David Coots. He allegedly inserted abortion pills into his girlfriend's body while they were having sex because he did not want her to have the baby. This is where we're at, people. This is where we're at. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't have done it on the up and up. Obviously, he could have. He's a sicko. But it's just like letting people have their own agency and deciding this is so valid. It's so important. It's so, so very important. And as the show kind of teased, Richard Simmons made a post saying that he's dying. Now, we had to clarify that. I liked his clarification. And then there was a little bit more to the story about why he might be, posting things like that and what have you. But we'll kind of get into this idea of, being thankful, right? Like understanding, we only have so much time on this planet, people. Mm-hmm. And I think Richard Simmons tried to do kind of a sweet thing. I don't quite think he did it the right way, but it is what it is. Thank you to Spencer for the $5 super sticker. You are such a great supporter of the show, Spencer. Woo-hoo. We really, really do appreciate it. Spencer. All right, let's do some headlines. We'll get into a bunch of these other stories. Also want to talk about Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner is backing this New York transgender in sports bill. And, we don't need to get into the whole thing necessarily, but should her opinion carry more weight than, let's say, a cisgendered person who's like, no, it's discrimination? I mean, should we be listening more to the transgender community, even if they're saying something we may not agree with? We'll talk about all of that and so much more, but let's first take a look at some other headlines with Kim.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Madoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Well, Let's start. Can you hear me? Good. Am I
I
muted?
can hear
No?
you. No,
Okay,
I
good.
can hear you.
Sometimes I forget. Okay. The Republican-led impeachment inquiry into President Biden is pressing on. Can you even believe it? During a congressional hearing today, Kentucky Republican James Comer accused President Biden of using his political influence to make his family rich. Where's the evidence, sir?
Okay, yes,
But Maryland
exactly.
Democrat Jamie Raskin pushed back, arguing the nearly 20 fact witnesses in the investigation have yet to identify a single act of wrongdoing. The House Oversight Committee is hearing testimony today from two of Hunter Biden's former business partners and former Rudy Giuliani associate Lev Parnas as well.
Oh, wow.
This back and forth with this Texas law, it's like, I can't even keep track of it all.
Yeah.
This Texas law that would allow local police to arrest anyone they suspect of crossing the border illegally.
It's a show me your papers thing. Let's just be clear. It is basically show me your papers. Yeah.
Mhm. Laws back on hold. Late Tuesday night, a federal appeals court voted 2-1 against an earlier ruling from
Right.
another panel that put the law into effect. Arguments are being heard this morning on Texas's request to put that law back into effect, but it's definitely, yesterday it was, yeah, now we're doing it, now we're not. Now we're
Yeah.
doing it, now we're not.
It's going to end up back before the U.S. Supreme Court once again, obviously. But here's the thing. Let's just get into it now. The reason why you want the federal government to handle the system in checking people's immigration status and having ports of entry and things like that is because when you allow states to do it, there is the consequence of vigilantes deciding on their own, because you can see this happening, that they see somebody that's a little too dark skinned, because, you know, it's not the lighter skinned people that are the risk. It's the darker skinned people, right? That are obviously undocumented immigrants. And so going up to them and using whatever means necessary, now that they feel like the state has given them the control of that, to ask for papers. I can imagine things going terribly wrong. I can imagine, let's just say, somebody in Texas shooting somebody that they suspect is there undocumented. And so, yeah, it just seems to me the federal government needs to handle this. Letting all states decide for themselves how they're going to do this is opening up an entire can of worms that at some point, sadly, tragically, I think is going to end with some sort of confrontation that could lead to someone being killed. It's ridiculous. This should only be under the purview of the federal government. I just don't see how this is going to play out any other way.
Well, and what does it say to people in Texas? This is the way we're going to treat people with brown skin.
Exactly. Especially when so many people in Texas have brown skin. Like, everyone's going to be suspecting everybody else, which they probably do already. I mean, Texas, according to the Washington Post, could conceivably ask the full circuit court to review the panel's decision, blocking it temporarily, but that's uncommon. Now, the law that they want to put in place obviously would make it a state crime for migrants to illegally cross the border and would give state officials the ability to carry out their own deportations. But how would you do that? I mean, and who gets that power? The cops? That just seems not feasible. Don't they have other things that they should be doing? I don't know. It's just, yeah, we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see how this plays out. There's no determination at this point. It's like whiplash, back and forth, back and forth. So we don't know what's gonna happen yet.
Let's go to Haiti.
Let's go to Haiti.
Yeah. Efforts to get U.S. citizens out of Haiti continue today. 2 rescue flights from Haiti were supposed to leave yesterday. Plans fell through on that. Florida Division of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie says the situation on the ground is very volatile, with gang violence having plunged the Caribbean nation into chaos. Guthrie says people were planning to work overnight to make sure that today's flights get off the ground and those seeking safety are brought back to America. It's scary what's going on there.
It's crazy.
There are 5 states today that are holding presidential primaries. Both President Biden and former President Trump have already secured the nominations of their respective parties, and both easily won all 5 states yesterday. I should say not today, but yesterday the votes were held. But here's the results. In one of the most closely watched down-ballot races, Trump-backed Ohio Republican Bernie Moreno won the GOP nomination for Senate as he looks to unseat Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown in November.
Okay.
The Senate race is key if Republicans want to take control of the Senate next year. So that was the big one to watch yesterday. Yeah.
And he won. Okay.
Arkansas National Guard troops are assisting with southern border security as well. Republican Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders announcing Tuesday 40 National Guard members will work along the border with Mexico starting April 1st through the end of May. The troops will help the Texas National Guard manage illegal immigrants and fight drug and human trafficking. So now Alabama getting involved in that as well. Interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
Gas prices are rising with today's national average up to, get this, it's always so cute, $3.51 a gallon. That according to AAA.
I wish. I would love to pay that much money.
Yesterday's price at the pump was $3.48. Drivers in California, of course, seeing the highest prices, $4.93 on average here in our state. The cheapest gas in the nation can be found in Mississippi at $3.06 a gallon.
How often do you guys fill up? At what point, let's take this down. At what point in your gas gauge do you fill up? Do you go all the way to E or do you go halfway? Let me know in the comments. So I feel like when it's this expensive, I try, and it's only because I don't fill up that much unless I'm driving to San Francisco all the time. I like to fill up like maybe a little bit below half, so it's not such a hit when I fill up my tank because it lasts longer. I know that's not feasible for everybody, but I mean, we have to weigh, right? We have to weigh the fact that, using gas-powered cars leads to pollution, greenhouse gas emissions. Here in California, we care about those things. We keep voting for these things. So obviously, this is what we want to do versus, gosh, darn it, we pay too much for gas. And I do think there's all this hidden fees and cents that we're paying more, and we can't really answer for it.
Summer blend.
Yeah. RN Sue says, I fill up at a quarter tank. My dad taught me to always do that. Kim says, I fill up when I have about 90 miles left in the tank. Yeah, quarter tank. Yeah, so I try not to let my car go to empty. I always heard like that's really, really bad. Is if you get your car to like really low, it sucks up all that guck at the bottom of your gas tank.
Right.
Gordon, I always fill up all the way. I always fill up all the way too. I'm asking like at what point you're empty do you say, okay, I got to go fill up right now? Sandy says, I fill up my tank every Sunday, even though I usually still have half a tank. Monday, I drive up the peninsula for work, so I like to start the week with a full tank just in case. That's a good rule of thumb. That's a good yeah, I like that. I mean, especially if yeah, Gordon, the California tax on gas, I agree with you, is too much. We need to figure out, what's going on there. Blue Spark says, I wait until it's been on E for a while. I usually pull into the station with my fingers crossed. You really shouldn't do that. Every person that I've ever talked to says you really should. Quarter tank, I think, is the lowest that people say you should go. Randy says, I never let my tank go below half. What if an earthquake or a power outage happens and I can't get gas? So my husband just, if you can believe it, we bought a generator, a gas-powered generator.
Right.
But we haven't had any gas.
They're going to be illegal coming up, or they're not going to be sold anymore in California.
Well, I have one, so I got in. I got in early.
Look at you.
I know, I guess. But we got it during COVID because I was doing the show at home, and we had all those power outages because of the wildfires and PG&E sucked ass. So we got a generator just in case, so I could still do the show, so I can get the internet up and things like that. But we never had gas. And so my husband just like recently is like, I gotta fill up the gas tank and just to have some gas available, So I don't know how long that's safe to keep, but apparently he has it. Janet says, I try to fill up at 50 miles, but sometimes it's at least 10 miles till empty. Yeah. Susan says you should always have at least half a tank in case there's an emergency. Yeah. If you've ever watched like zombie movies or end of the world movies, it's always the person that has the car that has the gas, right? That's able to get out of town.
That's what you think of when you're like, I've got to fill up my gas tank because of the potential zombie situation.
Yes, or the end of the world. Who doesn't? Am I odd here? Come on now. Oh Leon says fill up at Costco with benefits going back to your credit card up to 3%. So Yeah. So yeah, fill up your gas tank. I like to fill it up more often because if the gas price keeps going up, get it early, right? Get it while it's still that price versus the other price. That's the way I think about it. So go
Oh
ahead.
my God, you're so funny. Yes, it's the zombie fill up, just in case.
You know
Oh my
what? You keep
goodness.
talking schmack about it. You're not going to hop in the car with me when I'm getting out of town then. Be like,
If you could-
oh, I am the smart one, Kim McAllister, aren't I?
If you could drive to Petaluma when the zombies come, that would be
Maybe that's where
fantastic.
the state, I might have to go to Canada apparently, or down to Mexico. I don't know how the zombies know borders, but apparently they do.
You got to pick me up first. We're on the same. We're in there. We're in it together.
There you go.
Oh my God. Okay, speaking of votes,
Votes, yes.
yet another election is coming in California's congressional District 20 race. They had that special primary yesterday to decide who should finish out former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's term until January.
Yeah.
But no one got more than 50% of the vote. So the
Okay.
top two candidates will have to run off in May. So far, that includes Assemblyman Vince Fong. The race is tight, though, for that second spot between Fong and the sheriff of Tulare County, Mike Boudreau. They were already chosen in the state primary to compete in November for a full term in office. Now in May, they've got to run off against each other for the remainder of that term. Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ugh. Yeah. Well, bye McCarthy. I'm just glad that guy's gone too. So.
Yeah. This was a meeting last night. I'll tell you what. Person after person. I was reading people's posting last night about being at this meeting and how there were hundreds of people, and you would call in to try to speak publicly, and you'd be like number 642.
Oh wow. Okay.
Right. And so this is a meeting about the landlines in California,
Oh,
as speaking to the
yes.
California Public Utilities Commission. There's a lot of people are worried about losing landlines. More than 200 people, way more than that, called into a hearing yesterday with the Public Utilities Commission here in California to give their feedback. Boy, did they get an earful. AT&T is required to provide this service, but has asked state regulators to remove its obligation. The company says this doesn't mean it's canceling landlines anytime soon, but it will work with customers who still use them to upgrade to newer technologies. Well, what if you want your landline because you
Thank
don't want to
you.
be screwed in an earthquake or something,
Exactly. Well, and the funny thing is, I was I was listening to the news report about this morning, and I love how AT&T's like, we have to remain competitive to give our customers what they want. And I kept saying, they want the landline, mofo. Like they want it. And the
Right.
truth of the matter is cells go down. And when you're in these remote areas, and I'm sorry, AT&T, you provided the service back then. You have to keep doing it. I put zero stock in the CPUC of doing the right thing, so they'll probably side with AT&T because they love to screw consumers. But I hope they're able to keep their landline. It's you. What more does AT&T have to do? I mean, we have cell phones. I mean, obviously maintaining the cell lines and the fiber optics and whatever the hell else they do, but that's just going to include landlines, in my opinion. They need to keep the landlines.
Yeah. And people want that. So why
Yeah,
don't they? Yeah, I
exactly.
know
Eric says, sorry, AT&T, you signed up for it because you wanted a monopoly. You wanted it. It's just like the people that signed up for the payphones, right? They have to maintain them for a while as long as they're still there. So AT&T is going to have to do it as well.
Gotta do it. Senior drivers are in for a big change when renewing
I
their
saw this
California
too.
driver's licenses. Anyone age 70 or older now has to do it in person at the DMV.
Good.
They'll also have to undergo a vision test and pass a written test. 70 or older. This is it. If they fail, their license could be extended by 30 days unless they retake and pass the exam sooner. A recent change in the law allows those under 80 to take the test online. They have to still show up, though, to get their vision checked. So
Yes.
changes.
I mean, it seems obvious. There was, again, somebody this morning was commenting on it and they said, 70, 40 years ago isn't the same as 70 now. Like we're living longer. I'm like, but that doesn't mean you're still a good driver. Just because people are still active doesn't mean your eyesight's still not going or your reflexes are slowing down. Like, I'm sorry. If you're a good driver, prove it. That woman that's accused of, well, allegedly, I'll say, because she hasn't been convicted yet, of hitting that bus stop in San Francisco, 78 years old. 78 years old. So I don't want to hear anything about a medical, was she, impaired? Was she having a heart attack? I don't know what happened to her, but still, if you're behind the wheel of a car, you need to be able to safely drive the car. Now, my mom willingly, and this isn't often that you hear this, willingly gave up. Well, I mean, she still has a license, but she doesn't drive.
Yeah.
She does not drive because her eyesight's going, and she knows it. I remember when it was happening. I'll never forget this. She's like, I parked across the street because I didn't trust that I would be able to do the parking spaces and not hit a car. And she's like, no.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm done. And that was it. And she's like, I'm done. Because she's got glaucoma or something wrong with her eyes, so she can't do it. And I was very proud of her because that's not easy
Right.
to give up that freedom of having your car and being able to drive. But she did it.
I can remember being in the car with my grandfather, and he was in his late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents on my mom's side died in their 70s, kind of early.
Yeah.
But he was blowing through stop signs, didn't see him.
Yeah.
And I was like holding on for dear life. I'm thinking, stop sign. What just happened?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, did you not see that? And again,
Yeah.
there are people like my dad's a fine driver. I mean, I don't often drive with him, but he is a fine driver. The last time I was, which wasn't that long ago. So he drives my mom around, and he's older than her, but he's fine. You know what I mean? So you have to understand your capabilities. And I know it can be hard. I can't imagine if and when the day comes where my dad's like, I can't drive anymore.
Right.
Obviously, guess who's going to fall on?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if I can, obviously, I'll be driving them around. But thankfully, there's Uber. There's also senior citizen shuttles, I'm assuming, things like that. But yeah, it's hard to give up your driver's license, especially your freedom and being able to do what you want when you want.
Yeah, that's true. The United States is no longer one of the top 20th happy countries in the world.
Ah, yes.
Isn't that a bummer?
It is a bummer. I saw this. Yeah.
It's the first time that's happened since the rankings were started by Gallup back in 2012. Americans are now 23rd on the happy list. Happiness has fallen among all age groups here in America, particularly those under age 30. The youngins aren't very happy. That in part to unaffordable housing and a growing sense of loneliness. Nordic countries remain in the top, with Finland at number 1 on the happy country list.
Well, I saw this one headline though. So it said U.S. drops, like you mentioned, a new global happiness ranking, but one age group bucks the trend. And I didn't even need to look it up. Do you know what age group in the United States bucks that trend?
Is it us?
No.
Gen Z?
People age 60 and older in the U.S. reported high levels of well-being compared to younger people. In fact, this age group is among the top 10. So if you're 60 and older, and I wonder why that could be. Well, and now I'm not saying this is everyone. And I know that there's people 16 older that are having a hell of a time, right? Maybe they can't afford their rent. They're on a fixed income, what have you. But, especially boomers and older boomers, the society was kind of set up a little bit for you. You know what I mean? So you probably, in the large group they're listing, own your own home, have paid off your home, right?
Sure.
Have a retirement, have a pension that still pays you, right? I mean, now the later generations, all those things are kind of whittling away. The dollar doesn't go as far. Inflation and high costs of housing have grown exponentially while wages have not. It's not the same world for, 20, 30, even 40-year-olds as it is 60, 70, 80-year-olds. It's just not.
Kind of excited about this. I don't know why. Do you have this book? Did you read this book to your kids, Harold and the Purple Crayon?
I feel like I have, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first trailer is being released for the movie Harold and the Purple Crayon. It's an adaptation from this children's book of the same name. It follows a man named Harold who can create worlds using his imagination and his purple crayon. The cast includes Zachary Levi, Zoe Deschanel, Lil Rel Howery,
Okay.
and Ravi Patel. Harold and the Purple Crayon hits theaters in August. So that's
how
kind of cool.
fun. That is awesome. That is, and who could possibly buy that book and read to their brand new grandson? SJ Lola. Thank you so much for the $10 donation. Writes, yesterday we became grandparents.
Oh my
I'm very
gosh.
excited to meet our grandson this afternoon. Oh, I am so
that's
happy
so
for you,
exciting.
SJ Lola. That is so, congratulations.
Really cool.
Again, I was talking with our two friends yesterday, and one of them's pregnant. And we were talking about how crazy it is when the baby's born and you're like, that was inside my body. And I was remembering, and you'll remember this, parents will remember, when they're brand spanking new and they stay in that ball. You know what I mean? That they're all curled up all the time. And when you pick them up, they have that squishy face. Oh, I'm so jealous of you, J. Lola. I am not ready to be a grandparent, not saying that, but I get the excitement of being a grandparent.
And the way their little baby head smells of like fresh shampoo.
Oh, J. Lola, congrats. That is so awesome. That is so exciting.
Congratulations. What an amazing thing. Lastly, guess what's going on?
I was thinking of you today. I'm like, I think it's going to pop.
I think it's going to pop. With no grand prize winner in last night's Mega Millions drawing, the jackpot is even closer to the $1 billion. Friday's drawing
I think I'm going to have to buy one. I have to buy one. It's tonight, right?
$977 million. The drawing, I think on Friday. Yeah. The cash option that works out is $461 million.
Oh, so the drawing is Friday.
Yeah.
So it could be over $1 billion by then.
Is the Powerball. And that one is also on the rise. $687 million up for grabs in the Powerball.
All right, I'll have to buy a ticket for both. I mean, might as well, right?
So Mega Millions, I don't know, $977
It's just like you're giving away $1, though. I mean, you can't win if you don't play. I was literally in the grocery store the other day, and me and this woman in front of us, we were talking about it because I was noticing the sign. I looked at my husband. I'm like, oh, we got to get a lotto ticket. And we didn't buy one. We just talked about buying one. And she was like, then we started getting this whole conversation about coworkers and that one case where the office always winning on the office pool.
Oh, yeah.
But one person just forgot but said, I'll give you the $1, but didn't. And that's when it hit and they sued and all sorts of things. And then there was another one she was telling me about where the boss, they won but they didn't sign anything. And so he just took off with all of the money. And I was like, that's why you just got to buy a ticket for yourself. That way you get all the money and there's no lawsuits about it. But
how horrible.
I know. If you're going to go in with people, just be on the up and up. Bad juju. But can you imagine winning $1 billion? I'm sure you can afford a lawyer to say, nope, it's all mine.
No, I guess escape to a Caribbean island and don't pay your coworkers.
Yeah, but that's bad juju, dude.
That's
I mean,
totally
I could never do that. I could never. No.
How greedy do you? I mean, how much money do you really need? How greedy
I mean, if you're winning $1 billion, even if they take half $1 billion, you can't make it work. You can't share the love. Give
Ridiculous.
Me a break. People me a
suck.
break.
People are weird about money sometimes.
Well, I mean, I can't. I want to know what that feels like, though. Kim, can you imagine? Seeing the numbers and having the ticket with all of the numbers on it and just being like, oh my God. I can't even wrap my mind around what, obviously excitement, but just oh my God, in that moment, your life is completely different. And it's also in that moment where if you mess up, it can ruin your life. That much money can fundamentally make everything better or not. You know what I mean? And it's awful. Thanks, Louise. Darn it, Nikki, buy a couple of tickets. I love you guys. You know,
we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
The truth of the matter is, it's really unlikely. But God, can you imagine? Why are you showing me delicious pasta?
It's a dream. Because I wanted to wrap it up by telling you it's ravioli day. Yeah.
Oh, favorite ravioli, go.
Oh, pine nuts, ricotta cheese, and a little bit of half and half sauce, half Alfredo, half marinara. They call it a rosé sauce.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds delicious.
Or pesto. I do like the pesto sauce.
You do like a pesto. I like a mushroom. I like a mushroom ravioli, kind of like the butter truffly, earthy sauce. With a lot of Parmesan cheese on it.
Brown butternut ravioli with a brown sugar sauce.
Damn it! I might have to buy some instead of the lotto tickets. I might have to go get some mushroom raviolis for ravioli day. Oh, that looks good though. Looks like
ravioli day.
Chili sauce or something that this is drizzling on it, or maybe
that.
Yeah, it looks good. Maybe
when I was
brown
scrolling through pictures of raviolis, that one looked like you could most clearly tell it was ravioli. So. Yeah.
Yes, that is definitely a ravioli. Thank you. All right, that's the news.
That is the news.
It
is sponsored by you.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. Sorry, I got my mind was still on raviolis. I was still wrapped up in raviolis over here. The show is sponsored by you. You know it's crowdfunded, and I hate to ask it, but check us out at thenickymadoroshow.com. And if you're so inclined to support us, well, we appreciate it. The Patreon and the PayPal links are there. They're also in the show description. And thanks for anything you do for us.
Yeah.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Maduro Show.
Thank you, guys. Now, I do want to add this because I just saw it cross my wires. And we were talking about gas prices and everything like that. So President Biden has finalized the country's toughest limits on planet warming emissions from passenger cars and light trucks. The EPA rule would require automakers to ramp up sales of electric vehicles while slashing carbon emissions from gas-powered models. But unlike last year's proposed rule, automakers would not need to dramatically boost EV sales until after 2030. I guess this is a delayed timeline that reflects concessions to labor unions. Another change in the proposal, automakers could comply with boosting sales of plug-in hybrid vehicles in addition to all-electric vehicles. Plug-in hybrids have proved to be more popular with U.S. consumers because of the infrastructure involved in charging them up, obviously. So I guess this is just a little bit of, having that concession to labor unions is a big change because people were concerned about that rapid shift to electric vehicles. And obviously, as electric costs go up, people are probably rethinking getting that freaking electric car. I know I am. I'm going hybrid. Before any of the rules, before they start pulling my hybrids off the sales lot, I'm going to buy myself another hybrid. I'm just am. I mean, gas is still going to exist, so I'm totally going to do that. Sorry. Nikki, have you eaten breakfast? No, I don't eat breakfast. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you, Vilma? You know I don't eat breakfast. I've had 2 cups of coffee, though. I have definitely done that.
Maybe she thinks because you sounded hungry when you were talking about raviolis.
I'm hungry anytime food is put on the screen. I don't like I ate yesterday. I ate those leftover corned beef sliders from St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yeah.
I had 2 of those. And then I had, the dumplings at dinner. So that's what I had yesterday. And then I think I had some Doritos. Such a healthy diet that I have over here. Don't follow the Nikki diet. It's awful. All right. Let's go into
little Taco Bell, little ravioli.
I did
dumplings.
not have Taco Bell. I'd bought a bunch of Doritos over the weekend because we had people over to barbecue. And so we got a big bag of Doritos. And I cannot have Doritos in my house. I have to eat them. So they're not in my house anymore. They're in my belly. I love
Doritos. Is on the banned list.
I don't care, Kim.
Because they have that red dye.
Delicious.
I'm like, nope. No more Takis and no more Doritos are coming in.
No, but I thought it was the Flaming Hot. It's the regular Doritos
Flaming Hot
too?
Cheetos. It's Takis too.
But is it the regular Doritos? The nacho cheese
anything
Doritos?
with that. Anytime you reach into a bag and you've eaten a couple and you have that orange kind of gritty powder on your fingers.
No cheese puffs?
No.
No Chester the Cheetah?
That was it orange? That's artificial dye they put in there.
Can we start making it out of beets, please? Because I love Doritos. If I had to choose a chip, I mean, sour cream and onion.
Right? There's alternatives they can use that won't kill us.
Yeah, I should definitely get the European Doritos because I love Doritos. I love Doritos, sour cream and onion, Lay's. I don't like the ridges.
Can't do it.
And then I like salt and vinegar chips. I don't eat chips all the time. Again, we got them because we had a barbecue. I don't normally have chips in my house. But
do you ever have that moment where maybe in your childhood, sometime in your life, you ate something and then you got horribly sick with the flu and you were sick or whatever it was.
Yes, like food poisoning or something. Yeah.
And it probably wasn't even related to the thing you ate,
right.
But that's the last thing you ate. And so that's what you tasted,
yes.
Coming back up.
Yes.
And so I got really sick when I must have been, 11 or 12, and I had just eaten sour cream and onion potato chips, and I will forever associate the taste of them with being violently ill.
Ugh.
So they're just on my no list.
Yeah, that's portobello mushrooms. I think I've mentioned this before. I had the portobello fajitas at Chevy's. I mean, I am talking probably 15 years ago, but that was all I tasted. So I blame the portobello mushroom. So I still have mushrooms. I love mushrooms. I love mushrooms. And I'll have like the baby bells, but I would never eat like a portobello burger. That's never going to happen for me.
No.
Not like that. I can't do that again. Um, okay, let's move on to reproductive freedom. More than 1 million, according to a new report, more than 1 million abortions were provided in the U.S. in 2013, according to a major finding from a report published Tuesday by the Guttmacher Institute. Researchers estimate there were 1,026,700 abortions, and it's the highest number in a decade.
Yep.
The report also found medication abortions rose 63%, or were 63% of all abortions in 2023. That's up 10% from 2020. Look, people want reproductive freedom. I'm going to show you this speech.
But
go ahead.
Do you consider the day after pill or the morning after pill to be an abortion?
No, you would have to. I consider an abortion that you have confirmed to be pregnant. The morning after pill prevents the pregnancy from happening, correct? Right.
Yes.
So no, I do not consider that an abortion at all.
It prevents implantation, right?
Implantation, yeah.
I
So
don't
it has to be
consider-
implanted to be a pregnancy. And so then after that, then I would consider whatever you do after that an abortion. And that's and the medication abortion is after implantation. That's what I'm considering it. Okay.
Okay.
So this is a Democratic senator from Arizona, Eva Birch. And she announced on the floor that she needs an abortion. I'm going to play a little bit of it. Some of the clips went around yesterday. I'm not going to play the entire 10 minutes, but I'm just telling you, the fact that this woman has to make this speech and the story that she's telling should just wake people the hell up.
I rise today because I think it's important to acknowledge how this body has impacted my family and our journey.
And again,
along
this is
with many
Arizona,
others who are just like me. I don't know how many of you know this, but a few weeks ago, I learned that against all odds, I am pregnant. Many of you know that I've had kind of a rough journey with fertility. I had my first miscarriage more than 13 years ago, and I have been pregnant many times since then. Twice I was lucky enough to successfully carry to term, and I have 2 beautiful, healthy little boys. But 2 years ago, while I was campaigning for this Senate seat, I became pregnant with what we later determined was a non-viable pregnancy. It was a pregnancy that we had been trying for, and we were heartbroken over it. But now I wish I could tell you otherwise. But after numerous ultrasounds and blood draws, we have determined that my pregnancy is once again not progressing and is not viable. And once again, I have scheduled an appointment to terminate my pregnancy. I don't think people should have to justify their abortions, but I'm choosing to talk about why I made this decision because I want us to be able to have meaningful conversations about the reality of how the work that we do in this body impacts people in the real world. For the last 12 years, I have worked both as an ER nurse and a nurse practitioner in a women's health clinic, and that experience informs the understanding that I have of my situation. Pregnancy, intended or otherwise, increase your risk for just about every health problem that a person can have. And that includes diabetes and high blood pressure and blood clots, anxiety, depression, arrhythmias, ischemic stroke, and I could go on. Pregnancy is not a health neutral condition. Certainly, pregnancy carries more risk than abortion, which is a very low risk procedure. And I say this not to try to discourage people from pregnancy. I'm so glad that I accepted those risks and carried my children. I just recognize them, because I think we have to be honest about the balance of risk and reward and why abortion can often be the right healthcare choice. I don't know how many of you have been unfortunate enough to experience a miscarriage before, but I am not interested in going through it unnecessarily. And right now, the safest and most appropriate treatment for me, and the treatment that I choose, is abortion. But the laws that this legislature has passed has interfered with my ability to do that, along with countless others. And I want to explain what I mean and why I'm still pregnant as I address all of this today, despite having known about the unavoidable demise of my pregnancy and despite having been to the abortion clinic on Friday, where they were equipped and prepared to perform my abortion. First, I was required to have another ultrasound at the abortion clinic, as all patients seeking abortion are required to do in Arizona. An ultrasound that I absolutely did not need to have. I didn't have an ultrasound because my doctor thought I needed one. I had one because legislation has forced me to do that. An invasive transvaginal ultrasound that I didn't want or need to have, performed by someone who didn't want to have to do it. I am safe and loved and protected in my marriage. But I cannot imagine how inappropriate that would be for a victim of sexual assault or for someone who has an abusive or coercive relationship with their partner. Another unwanted vaginal penetration, but this time by the state, by the people who are commissioned to protect us. Then I got to sit through an exhaustive list of absolute disinformation that was read off to me. I was told that there were alternatives to abortion, parenting, or adoption among them, as if delivering a healthy baby is an option for me. It is not. My medical provider was forced to tell me multiple things that don't apply to my situation and some that are just transparently, factually false. And they do this because of laws passed by this legislature in opposition to medical expert testimony and advice. From where I sat, the only reason I had to hear those things was in a cruel and really uninformed attempt by outside forces to shame and coerce and frighten me into making a different decision other than the one that I knew was right for me. There's no one size fits all script for people seeking abortion care, and the legislature doesn't have any right to assign one. I'm a perfect example of why this relationship should be between patients and providers.
Yep.
All that the legislature has done is to nurture distrust and confusion in the relationship between patients and providers for people who are vulnerable enough. It's not the job of the medical provider to try to talk a patient out of a decision that they feel comfortable with. Providers want patients to be informed, but not coerced. At no point in either of my experiences at abortion clinics did I feel pressure from the provider to get an abortion. I felt compassion and kindness and empathy and understanding. The only guilt that I felt was for the providers who was forced to say things that they shouldn't have to say because of us.
And so there, and she goes on. I mean, it's a long one. I wanted to play a good chunk of that because, again, she's so right. Like, there is no role of government. People that are saying like, well, what about you're just going to let it at 40 weeks? Just let somebody have an abortion. Again, nobody's doing that willingly. Nobody is doing that willingly. They are just making a decision based on the facts of their pregnancy. I don't know what happened to Kim. I just feel like if there is an opportunity for somebody to have a conversation, a very difficult conversation, there's no room for the government. There is no room. That's why people are like, so they should just allow women to have abortions at any point in their pregnancy. And I know it sounds brutal, especially to the anti-abortion people. But yes, because there is no role of government in this. Now, I know that we make limits, like, okay, I don't know. Do you know what it is in California? Is it 22 weeks? We have a limit.
Look it up. I think
look it up.
Is it like 4 months or something?
Something like this, like 20. We have a limit. You want to know why that limit's there? It's not because that they're, it's to make people feel better about abortion. If you are 5-6 months pregnant, you want that pregnancy. There's no reason to continue being pregnant. If you have abortion access in a state like California, right, that makes it affordable, right, that makes it accessible, why would you carry a pregnancy to 5 or 6 months and then have an abortion? It's too much. And again, because
trust me, you don't want to be pregnant.
No.
I mean, you don't want why would you go through 2 extra months? Weird stuff happens to your body when you're pregnant. It's horrible.
You're just going all there's just no role of government.
You can be one of those weird people who likes being pregnant, but most of the time, no.
Yeah, I just the reason why I wanted to play that again, in light of that report that obviously shows Americans want abortion access. This is not an issue that should be, determined politically or in the courts. It should be determined in the doctor's office. It should be determined in the bedroom between a woman and her family. And if a woman is alone, it's between her and herself. And that's it. Now, again, you don't have to like the idea of an abortion. You can 100% believe that life begins at conception. And if you believe that, then carry your pregnancy on as long as you want to. But the truth of the matter is you cannot then put those rules on other people because obviously people want abortion access. If they didn't, people would be having fewer abortions, not more of them after we got rid of Roe v. Wade. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And again, people are letting their personal and their religious beliefs cloud what's right to do. The Minnesota Court of Appeals has ruled that a pharmacist who refused to provide emergency contraceptives to a customer because of his personal beliefs engaged in discrimination. The pharmacist, George Bedeau, engaged in business discrimination in 2019 when he would not fill a prescription for an emergency contraception that was used to stop a pregnancy before it starts. The customer seeking the prescription traveled 100 miles round trip from the pharmacy to another pharmacy where she was able to fill the prescription. It's insane that a pharmacist, now he's like, I'm a devout Christian, I believe every human life has value. Fine. If you knock someone up, George, then don't get an abortion. But as a pharmacist, your job is to fill legal prescriptions. It is not to impose your personal religious beliefs on everybody that walks through that friggin' door. Do you ask every single person, George, if they're in a Christian marriage? You know what I mean? Like, how far down the rabbit hole are you going on in you deciding something as important as whether or not someone is going to get pregnant or not?
Yeah.
It's just, we really need to get out of this idea that my beliefs have to be, enforced by everybody. It's just not the case. It's just not the case. And
I'm still looking it up. I can't find it.
I think it's, I want to say it's 20 or 22 weeks or something like that. But my point was there is a limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the limit is there as a concession to people that don't feel comfortable with abortions after the fact. I don't feel comfortable. Look,
It's 24. It's 24 weeks. Mm-hmm.
Look, I don't feel comfortable with someone having an abortion at 6 months. I also understand that if someone's having an abortion at 6 months, there's a medical need for it.
Yeah.
I don't believe. Now, of course, someone is going to know somebody that did it because they just couldn't,
Right.
They just
But those
waited.
cases are few.
I
and
didn't
far
know
between.
I was pregnant or
Yeah.
okay. Few and far between. I'm not going to use, absolutes, but I would say 99% of the time, okay, just to give myself some wiggle room, there's something tragic going on here. And so, and again, no role for the government in making that decision.
So
no
it's
role.
24 weeks, or if it weighs 500 grams, so that could happen earlier, I guess.
Yeah.
Or unless the life or health of the pregnant person is at risk in California.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's just insane. And again, it's crazy. And again, the married nurse that I had teased earlier, I just have to mention again, David Coots. Now, of course, okay, he's from Washington. He was arrested on March 11th because allegedly he had a girlfriend. He's a married father of 5 and was hooking up with this other woman. Okay. She gets pregnant. She tells him, hey, I'm pregnant. And so I bring up this story because, Roe v. Wade being overturned also impacts men, right? Men don't want to continue pregnancies, obviously. So he didn't want the pregnancy to continue. Too much of a chicken ass to basically say that early enough, because according to the woman, he was very supportive of the pregnancy. But then the day after she told him, he kept trying to get her to drink a cup of coffee that she believes was drugged with abortion pills. And then he was abnormally aggressive during sex and engaged in sexual activities he's never done before, which made her uncomfortable. He also, after sex, tried to prevent her from going to the bathroom for a period of time and asked her to stay home all day. Apparently, when she ended up going to the bathroom, a pill fell out, and then another pill with some kind of foil fell out. When she confronted him about the pills, he initially refused to say anything and then later admitted that the pills were to cause a miscarriage and had inserted 4 of them during sex.
God. And this is her, husband?
This is her boyfriend who's married, father of 5 to somebody else. Listen, ladies, don't hook up with married men. Do not believe the fairy tale that they're going to leave their wives.
Yeah.
If they were going to leave their wives, they would have.
Mm-mm.
And just wait until afterwards. Oh, yeah. It's definitely assault, Ricky. He's been arrested for rape and assault because obviously he was forcing himself on this woman doing this abnormal whatever. But can you imagine the depravity of someone being like, just friggin' tell her, I don't want this baby.
Right.
Like, but people get desperate. And I don't know if he thought that I don't know. Obviously he was able to access the abortion pill. So with the pills to, trigger a miscarriage. It's just insane. And as somebody had mentioned earlier, I'd put it up there. I wish I had a voice as a man in this.
Mm-hmm.
You do politically, but as far as, how to continue or if to continue a pregnancy, more weight is to the woman. Do you want to know why? Because the minute she finds out that she's pregnant, she has way more of the pressure and responsibility of the decision.
Yeah.
I'd mentioned earlier, like high schoolers having sex. You think a 15, 16, 17-year-old boy is, I'm sure, stressing,
Mm-hmm.
but stressing as much? I mean, there is just no comparison. He can walk away. He could say it's not mine. He doesn't get pregnant. He doesn't have the health impacts of a pregnancy. He doesn't have any of it. None. He could be there. He could be supportive. He could be stressing. He could do all of those things, but there is no comparison to what a woman goes through during pregnancy versus a man. None.
You have a real choice. The
Yeah.
choice is at time of release, right?
Yeah.
You that's when you made your decision there. So either wrap it up or abstain. Otherwise,
Exactly.
that was your choice.
Yeah.
If you put the seed in, then
You're done.
that was
Yeah.
your roll of the dice right there. That was
Exactly.
your voice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just insane. And so, yeah, I mean, everything's just so, I again, going into November, presidential elections matter, people, and I don't know if, hopefully if we win the White House, and I'm talking about Democrats, I hope we can do something about, reinstating Roe v. Wade, doing something to give women back their reproductive freedoms, because it is just being eroded all over the country. And no matter the fact that the numbers show that Americans want Roe v. Wade, it has to be enshrined or we're going to lose the right again. Well, we've lost it, but if we get it back, we're going to lose it again. So it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. All right, I'm going to transition now to something, I guess we're talking about women versus man. Well, let's talk a little bit about transgender people. Okay. Caitlyn Jenner has come out and said that she supports a ban in New York. Okay. It bans transgender athletes from basically girl and women's sports. I don't think they're really that offended about it going the other way. I thought I had the video. Oh, I do. They're just playing an ad right now. So this is a bit rich. Okay. There's certain things that bother me about specifically Caitlyn Jenner coming out against this, because obviously she's an athlete, not trying to take away her voice from this, but here, I do have the video up. Let me show it to you real quick. Here again is Caitlyn Jenner throwing her support behind the New York City ban.
In sports is her reasoning for backing bans like these. Listen to what she had to say today.
When it comes to athletics, participation, with the biological sex, you have to compete in the biological sex that you were born. This is critical to protecting the integrity of competition in women's sports.
The New York Attorney General issuing a cease and desist order now because of this ban. And what's happening in Nassau County, what's happening on Long Island could have real implications, not just on trans athletes there, but it could lead to a lot more questions about whether this could happen in other parts of the country. Look.
Okay, so and then they kind of go on. Now, look, we've talked about transgender athletes in sports, okay? And Caitlyn Jenner is allowed to have whatever opinion that she wants to. This is my question. Should her opinion carry more weight because she's a transgender athlete? Or just period, because she's a transgender person, right? The reason why I ask it like that is often when we talk about these societal issues, right? It's make space for the people that are directly impacted by it, right? Like, while you can advocate alongside people, I don't know what it's like to be a transgender person trying to compete in sports. I don't. I'm a cis woman, right? Like, I have no point of reference. I am not directly impacted by it. Some would say Caitlyn Jenner has something, right? Like, she's gone through this. She's a transgender person, even when she was in the Olympics. as and competing in the male category, right? She felt this way. So she should know, right? She should know what it feels like. Now, this is also coming from a woman, and a transgender woman, who competed in a women's golf tournament a few years ago. Now, I'm not saying it's the Olympics or anything like that, but it does seem a bit hypocritical for her to compete in any sport that's a women's category, right? I feel like on one hand, I want to make space for people that are directly impacted by that. On the other hand, that also includes cis women athletes. I do believe that we can't ignore how cis women who compete in sports feel about competing against transgender women. If we're going to make space for people, then we have to include everybody impacted by it. And so again, I still feel as this is becoming more of an issue, as more people are coming out as transgender and feel like it's safe for them to do so, we have to create a space for them to not only practice their sport, but to compete in it. So that would be my question for Caitlyn. If I was at that news conference, I would say, well, what is your message to transgender athletes who want to compete? Because they may not feel safe competing against, like, would Caitlyn Jenner have felt safe competing as Caitlyn Jenner in the Olympics? She wouldn't have. She wouldn't have. I mean, there's just no way, or she would have, I guess, in my opinion. If she felt like she would have been accepted, if she felt like she would have been able to do it, then she would have done it as Bruce and not Caitlyn, right? So it's so hard to know in this instance what the right thing to do is. But I really feel like we're coming to the point where there needs to be a category. There just does. And it could be open. It could be an open category. So cis athletes and transgender athletes can all compete if they choose to. But I do believe that as more transgender athletes are wanting to compete in their, identity, there needs to be, and post-puberty or through puberty, especially, we're not talking about kindergarten soccer teams over here, right? Yeah. We're talking about high school, college sports. Then I think that we really need to have this conversation. And I wish that Caitlyn Jenner and others wouldn't just I support this ban without also continuing, okay, then what do we do with these athletes?
Right.
Where do they fit in? Yeah. Because it's still not fair. And I understand cis women that are like, it's not fair to me to have to compete against somebody that's gone through male puberty and has an advantage. I get that argument. I get it. It's science, right? But I also don't think that it's right to tell transgender athletes you have to give up something that you love, that you've likely been playing in and competing in and practicing in for years, simply because you're a transgender athlete. I just don't. That's still not fair. And I think that we should be working towards that. And I wish that cis athletes, especially cis women athletes, could work with transgender women athletes on creating this and promoting it. I really do, instead of being at odds so much about it. And I think they're at odds so much about it because neither side feels like they're being heard.
What's wrong with having a third open category where anyone can compete? Anyone can compete.
It's like, there it is. You can, and I would also urge cis athletes to join those open tournaments as well, or competitions as well. Like, let's do this. Let's support them. Let's compete, because if there's not enough people to compete in whatever sport category there is for transgender athletes, then they don't really get a competition, right? And they don't do those things. Vilma says, I believe there should be trans leagues in sports. Maybe that would be the solution. I don't see another one. If there's another one, please lay it on me. But I don't see another compromise there. There needs to just be a space for everybody to compete, because we know this and again, not all of these athletes are going to be professional, right? So let's stop acting like everyone's going to go to the Olympics and everyone's going to do that. But everyone wants to play their sport. Everyone wants to compete. Everyone wants to be in the tournaments and what have you, because there's a joy in competing in that way. And it's just, now Quesadilla says, I disagree. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Look at the numbers, please, because it's so not a problem. It's becoming a problem though. Right? Because more people are coming into their own and feeling safe as we're learning. This isn't a niche thing. It isn't, yes, the number of transgender people in society as a whole is not a huge number. But as we we learn more and people start examining themselves more and what gender, I'm not talking about sexuality or sex organs. I'm talking about the social construct that is gender, right? As people start examining themselves, it could become bigger. So if we're going to let's kind of get in front of it, even though we're late, right? In figuring out a way for people to enjoy their sport. They exist. Right. They exist. Saying, oh, it's such a small number is saying, oh, that small number doesn't exist. Doesn't matter. that, oh, sorry, you're only 0.1%. You don't matter. No, they do matter. And they're loud, and they're going to get louder because they have allies. And that's the problem. That's the problem that needs a solution.
Ron says, I like the open category solution, but I think a man competing against a woman isn't fair competition. So I'll bring up this national rowing championship that my niece was involved in and won. Yay. But she went to we're watching it, and she was competing. They had a woman's category.
Yeah.
They had a men's category. And then they had an open category.
Yeah.
And so during the open category, there were boats with two guys. There were boats with a guy and a girl. There were boats with two women or girls. There were boats with, were bigger boats filled with all kinds of different people. So it wasn't, you had to be any gender. You could compete with your best friend who's a guy or your boyfriend or whomever. So it was this open category, and it didn't matter whether you were trans or whatever else. Now, maybe that's not taking the trans competition seriously enough. Maybe there needs to be a specific trans competition, or maybe an open competition where anybody could compete will suffice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Donald says, maybe stay the sex you are until you're done with your sport and then transition. Isn't that what Jenner actually did? Yes. But I also think that Jenner ended up aging in a society that became more open to accepting transgender people in general, right? I mean, it's not as if he felt comfortable doing it back when he was competing in the Olympics. 1, 2, as we become more accepting of the transgender community, people are starting to want to live in their truth earlier. So do they just not get to live in their truth and they just have to feel this way? We know what psychologically that can do to people.
And if you have read about him, he went through a really hard time in marriages, trying to be something that he wasn't. Yeah.
It's hard. And Chris, you're wrong. I mean, science, it's basic science. There are not scientifically 2 categories. There are so many configurations beyond X, and XY. I hate to say it. Do your research. There are. As scientists know this, okay? People have different kind of makeups. Now, yes, is the most common XX and XY? Yes, it is. But there are others. And so you just need to understand that and understand that, what we thought, 50 years ago has changed. It just has. And we're learning more. And there's nothing wrong with it. As we educate ourselves, we could just move on. It's not the end of the world. Mm-hmm. It really isn't. To understand that, gender and who people are can be on a spectrum, let's say. And it's not a big deal, and it's not ruining your life in any way. It really, really isn't. I mean, do I want my child to feel like they were born into the wrong body? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But, I don't want my daughter to have Crohn's disease. I don't want certain people to have bad eyesight. Things happen, but you just accept it and you move on. And I think the accepting thing is the most loving thing that we can do, especially when these people aren't hurting you. Nobody's hurting you. It's insane to me that people feel, personally involved in someone else's identity. Now, when we're talking about sports and scholarships, that's a conversation we can have. And that's why we're having it about the open category. But just being a transgender person doesn't impact you in any way. Accept them, figure out their pronouns, their names, and move the hell on. At least that's what I think. All right. Okay, let's do some more headlines, because then we're going to do something completely different. We're going to talk about Richard Simmons and the message that he was giving out on X, Twitter, and why he did it, what else he disclosed. And, I think he really tried to do a good thing. I just think he had a really odd way of doing it. Okay. And so if you're going to say something on X, on social media, and Richard Simmons is kind of, been hiding away, and there's a big question about, is he alive? And then he puts out something like this. I understand why people kind of were freaking out about it. Click the thumbs up button, show your support. Thank you to Spencer for the $5 super sticker. SJ Lola, congratulations, Grandma or Nana or Mimi. I don't know what name you've chosen, but you're going to be a grandparent. You are a grandparent, so congratulations. Thank you for the $10. Luis, thank you for the $5 towards the lotto tickets. You're awesome. Let's do some headlines, and then we'll talk about Richard Simmons next.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Maduro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says he had a lengthy conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today.
Okay.
That had to be an interesting conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, from around the world to up your...
Damn it. There. Sorry.
The Louisiana Republican told reporters he reiterated strong support for Israel and strong disagreement over Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's criticism of the prime minister last week. Johnson said it's dangerous for U.S. officials to tell Israel how to run its domestic affairs. Former President Trump will be able to appeal the decision to allow Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis to stay on his Georgia election interference case. Today, a judge granted a request from the defense attorneys to ask the state's appellate court for a review of this decision. Last week, a judge ruled that Willis could remain on the case if the special prosecutor, Nathan Wade, was removed, and he did resign. There's a trial date set now for this case in New York, where a New York City Marine veteran is accused in the chokehold death of a man on a subway train. This happened last May. A judge ruled this morning Daniel Penny will stand trial on manslaughter charges in October. Penny's lawyers had called for the case to be dismissed, arguing he acted in self-defense because Jordan Neely was threatening passengers, but prosecutors say Penny went too far in this case.
Yeah.
This is an interesting trial. Oh, we have to stop. Hold the presses. Everybody hold. Everybody hold.
Oh, Angel. Loving the Nikki Maduro Show. Here's some equal pay. Angel, thank you for the $50. That is extremely generous.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
so
Angel.
nice.
That was
We
so
really
generous.
appreciate that.
We honestly, you guys, I know we stopped the show because one, it's the comment, and two, it's a really big donation to the show. But we do appreciate you because we are just 100% crowdfunded, and we can't do it without you. So thank you.
Yeah, really, really nice. Sorry, that one caught my eye, and I had to.
Oh yeah,
I had to pull this bus over.
Yes.
Okay. This is a weird case, and I haven't heard much about it. I'm really surprised, but here we are. The trial over a riot in San Diego between Antifa and Trump supporters takes an unexpected turn. The courtroom stunner happened when a man named Jeremy White pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. The deputy district attorney, Mackenzie Harvey, one of the three prosecutors in the case, called the plea gamesmanship by the defense. White's co-defendant, Luis Francisco Mora, pled guilty this week to conspiracy to riot and an assault charge for tear gassing a woman at that Patriot rally, so-called Patriot rally. 9 of the 11 defendants have already pleaded guilty to charges related to the 2021 clash with Trump supporters on the boardwalk in Pacific Beach.
Wow.
A 78-year-old woman accused of crashing into a family at a San Francisco bus stop is now speaking out.
Oh, okay.
Her attorney releasing a statement last night saying Mary Lau joins the community in grieving and thanks all the first responders for their actions last Saturday. He also points out that she is cooperating with the authorities or investigators. Police arrested Lau while she was in the hospital, claiming she was speeding and driving the wrong way when her SUV jumped a curb. A 1-year-old boy and his parents were killed while waiting for a bus to the zoo. Their 6-month-old baby survived, but is still very injured and may not survive. So still
that
hospitalized.
breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And again, like, we don't know what happened. She was speeding, bad, obviously. Wrong way, bad. Older driver. We may be confused. You know, I just, makes me so sad.
Speaking of older drivers, an 81-year-old driver is taking a plea deal for killing a world champion cyclist. This means he will not serve more than a year in jail for crashing into Ethan Boys on his bike last year in San Francisco's Presidio. His attorney admits Arnold Lowe had 2 glasses of wine, but says it still hasn't been determined if alcohol played a role in this crash. The victim's family sent a letter to the judge saying they don't believe Ethan would want to put everyone through a lengthy, painful trial. The sentencing is set for July.
Wow. Yeah, okay, so you shouldn't drink and drive. You shouldn't drink and drive. Not a sip is a sip. You know what I mean? It always begs that question. I watched the show. God, what was it called? Firefly Lane. Did you see Firefly Lane?
I love that show. Yes.
Remember, spoiler alert, there's a scene in the last season where the friend is picking up the other friend's daughter in the car, and she had been drinking wine that night, and she's at a light, and she goes forward and someone else slams into it's the other driver's fault, right? They get in this horrific accident, but even though she did nothing wrong, because she had alcohol in her system, right? They're like, oh my God, you were drinking, which she shouldn't have been. I mean, she had been drinking and did drive, but it wasn't her fault. But that's why you don't, have any alcohol in your system when you're driving. So, yeah.
I don't know if you heard about this. Alameda County is issuing a health alert. Why? Boneheads. Someone with measles visited a San Leandro restaurant on March 9th, possibly exposing dozens of people. It happened at the Sons of Liberty Ale House during dinner time. The person was there from 4:45 in the afternoon to 7:30 p.m. That's a lengthy stay. The highly contagious disease is especially harmful to babies, pregnant women, and those who haven't been vaccinated. Anyone who was at that restaurant should keep an eye out for symptoms. So now we have to have measles warnings again.
Get vaccinated, people. There's a reason why these things are coming back. Jesus.
Right. It's because people aren't taking care of business, right?
Yep, exactly.
Not what we need to have happen here. Okay. This story, San Francisco adding 33 new speed cameras. The question they're asking is, where are they going to put them?
Okay.
Right? And do we need more speed cameras in San Francisco?
I mean, they work. They do work. When you know there's a speed camera, people slow down. You don't run the red. I mean, it does work. I mean, the cost, benefit, all those sorts of things do matter. But I will say, I know exactly where the one is when I'm driving home from. Not that I have. It doesn't. I only hit. Let me see. Hold on. I hit 1, 2, 3, 4 lights before I'm on the freeway, and they're like really close, so I'm not speeding, but there's one that I know is a speed camera, so don't even push it.
Project managers sorted through data and recommended they be installed along some of the city's high injury corridors. That includes Fulton Street, running along the north side of Golden Gate Park. The Municipal Transportation Agency is expected to give final approval on the locations in the coming months of where these cameras will be up and running it within the next year.
Okay.
More electric vehicle charging stations are coming to San Francisco as well. Access critical because they want to build 5,000 by 2030 to keep up with the demand in San Francisco. Officials stress curbside access as critical for residents who don't have their own house or garage with a charger. That's common in San Francisco. The hope is to eliminate some of the red tape around permitting, planning, and design over the next couple of months. The city will take community feedback once a study is completed.
All right.
You imagine having like a little place to plug in right along the curb in San Francisco?
I mean, it's kind of how we should be going, right? And the cost is going to be, big, but we just have to find a way of doing this. If you want us to move to electric cars, then the infrastructure needs to be there to do it, or I'm not gonna do it at all.
Yeah. This morning, Facebook and Instagram are down for some users. That, according to Down Detector's, Meta's social media platform saw a spike in issues at around 10 a.m. Eastern time. Most of the users reporting problems, saying they had trouble logging on to into the apps. The second time within a month that Meta's platforms have experienced some type of outages. So if that's happening to you, you're not alone. There's some type of issue.
Since you're mentioning social media, I did want to mention this story that crossed yesterday. Reddit and YouTube, sorry, YouTube, must face a lawsuit filed by survivors of that shooting in Buffalo that alleges the site's algorithms helped radicalize the shooter and prepare him for the attack. Apparently, before the shooter killed 10 Black people at Tops grocery store in 2022, he steeped himself in increasingly inflammatory and conspiratorial content on YouTube, content on YouTube and Reddit, and then sought guidance on those platforms on how to acquire weapon and body armor for the attack. In a statement to NPR, Reddit and YouTube said they disagreed with the decision. They do plan to appeal under, of course, that Section 230. Now, that protects internet platforms, obviously, from the things that are posted on their platforms. But in recent years, as algorithms have taken greater control over which content users see, the legal protection of Section 230 has been called into question. So this is going to be one to watch.
Lastly, I just like this picture. He's taken it all. Yes. There's a grocery store in Southern California. So tired of retail theft.
Yes.
And so they're increasing security in a big way. One Albertsons in San Diego is now fenced off. There are 2 entrance gates where you can go inside, but you can't exit from the same spot. Instead, the exit is on the other side of the store where you have to scan a receipt to get through the gate. A spokesperson says the added security is to prevent theft and offer a safer environment for their customers. So, got to scan your receipt to get out of the place.
Yeah,
will that work?
They just put up those the kind of, it's not a turnstile, but the gates that open up at the grocery stores to prevent people from going out the same way with their cart. You know what I mean? Like you have to go through the checkout to get out of the grocery store. They're automatic too. Like there's one by my in-laws where you have to kind of use your cart to push it open. This one, it's automatic. Now, on one hand, I was like, oh, that's fancy. On the other hand, somebody could just be on the other side, stand there, and then it opens and then the person walks through. I always find like little holes in how people are going to get around it.
Sure.
It'll obviously be more obvious, and then it's just mainly a deterrent, obviously. I don't mind it though. And I'm not one to be like, oh, we're going to hell in a handbasket. I wish that people didn't steal things, but they're doing it more often. And so if Safeway or Lucky's or Walmart, whatever has to do it, do it. You know, screw the thieves. They shouldn't be doing that stuff.
Otherwise,
anyway.
They're going to have to close the stores.
Exactly. And I'd rather have the store than to deal with that nonsense.
So this person didn't marry all these people at the same time.
Okay.
But he was married to them at the same time. This Texas man who married at least 10 women is now going to prison. Orlando Coleman pleading guilty to bigamy. The 51-year-old was pretending to be a bishop who traveled to churches around the country. After the marriage, he would take advantage of the women for financial gain. His scam came to an end when he tied the knot to the wrong Houstonian. She found checks from other women and did her own investigation. Coleman was sentenced this week to 3 years behind bars.
But that's not a real picture of him, is it?
No.
What's his name?
His name is Orlando Coleman.
I just want to see if he's cute. I'm like, I never understand how guys like this, he's not even that cute.
No.
I mean, he's not, he's not but like he's
got to see him now.
Okay. So it's kind of a small picture. I'm not able to say. There he is. Like, okay. I don't know. You know, he looks a little bit older, and I don't want to make the stereotype because I don't think it's fair. But was he preying on, women who were older, maybe hadn't been married before, had been widowed, had been divorced, were, kind of looking for love in all the wrong places? Why do you have so many wives? You know what I mean? It's stupid.
Yeah, he's not a bad looking guy. But, he's portraying himself as a bishop.
Yeah.
He's stealing all kinds of money.
Yeah.
He uses the church to camouflage scams and tries to get out of it. And he's going all around the country. I don't know.
Somebody was making the joke, men always want to have other families.
Yeah.
Right? Women don't. Women are like, I'm tired enough from this one that I'm paying attention
on. Are you kidding me? Imagine
I'm
going
not
to
gonna do
another
this for
house
other kids.
with
I don't
a
need
whole
other
other
kids.
thing. Like, how many rides do these kids need? Everybody in.
Never get out of my car. Jesus.
So they're married for 5 months, Coleman and this woman from Houston.
Okay.
And that's when she discovers that he's getting money from this woman in Virginia.
Wow.
And so she contacts the other woman. She's like, hey, I'm the wife of so-and-so.
Getting that phone call. Jesus.
And the other lady says she and Coleman had been married since 2019. And she's like, he's got wives all over the place.
Wow.
I'm telling you. So the Houston woman then calls the police and she's like, no, you're not doing that to me.
No.
And the police investigated. They filed bigamy charges against him. He had pleaded guilty to bigamy in July of 2023 in exchange for 3 years of deferred probation.
Okay.
2 months later, while still married to the Virginia woman, he married another woman from Kentucky. So apparently it didn't matter. When they found that out, the prosecutors, they revoked his probation. So now he was sentenced to 3 years in prison at a hearing that happened on March 11th.
What an idiot. What an idiot.
The prosecutor in the case said victims described him as a con man who married them for room and board and whatever money they could provide. Don't you have to think, like, the minute you get married and the guy's asking for money, like, he doesn't come with his own place to live. He doesn't.
Yeah.
This is so different.
Well, he's
than
a
yesterday.
traveling bishop, Kim.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't have like that
of
one.
course. Is that
So it's like,
why?
I travel so much. I don't have a home base. I've been looking for a home base. I want my home base to be with you, honey. Yeah. Give me I don't know, man. It's
Here's
just
the difference from the lady we saw yesterday.
Hmm.
Now, I didn't like her. The lady who was all out for, like, if a man can't support me. Then
oh,
whatever.
yes.
That lady. But she would have ferreted this guy out pretty quickly.
Oh, God, yeah.
So he would have
Yeah,
been a
you have to be able to
no-go.
afford me.
Yeah.
I'm not affording you, my man. You have to be able to afford me. Absolutely.
Here's how they say, get out from under this type of thing, or by doing your research. Run a background check if possible. Try searching their name on the internet. Look at their social media and ask a lot of questions.
I mean, the first one, the other three seem obvious. Who doesn't Google? You should be Googling yourself to see what's out there. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like, you should be definitely Googling the traveling bishop. Give me a freaking break over here.
And they say a lot of con men hide behind important sounding titles like that. And it's, when you hear the title and you're like, oh, he's
My
such
BS
and such.
detector would be
He
going
gets
off.
swept
Like,
off your feet. Next thing you know, you got a bank account balance of 0 and some guy sleeping on your couch.
yeah, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Exactly.
This report is sponsored by you.
You.
And that means that we really rely on you to help us crowdfund the Nikki Maduro Show. TheNikkiMaduroShow.com is the website. The Patreon and PayPal links are there. They're also in the show description, along with a lot of other links that you may enjoy. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is the Nikki Maduro Show.
Thank you, Kim. All right, let's get into Richard Simmons. I loved Richard Simmons. Sweating to the oldies. He was just iconic growing up. And I know, I would imagine everybody knows who Richard Simmons is, even if he hasn't been in the public eye in a very long time. So this is how most people remember him. Short shorts, workout gear, tank tops, sweating to the oldies, VHSs, right? That women would do. Well, he had a lot of people concerned because he went on X 2 days ago on the 18th. Now, I want to read you the tweet, and I just feel like I understand what he was going for, but come on, Richard. He says, I have some news to tell you. Please don't be sad. I am ... dying. Oh, I could see your faces now. The truth is, we are all dying. Every day we live, we are getting closer to our death. Why am I telling you this? He says, because I want you to enjoy your life. Now, this is the next tweet. So he says, why am I telling you this? Then the next tweet, because I want you to enjoy your life to the fullest every single day. Get up in the morning and look at the sky. Count your blessings and enjoy. Start with a healthy breakfast. Do you like oatmeal, whole wheat toast, eggs once or twice a week, fresh fruit, or half an English muffin? Then there's lunch. How about a nice salad? Don't eat your dinner too late. Combine your protein with starch and a few vegetables. And sure, once in a while, have dessert. One healthy day of eating will lead to the next and the next. Every day that you're alive, you have got to move. Whether it's standing or sitting, you've got to move your body every day. Start with stretching, then cardio and strength. I have a lot of workout videos on YouTube that you can use. Or maybe you have a lot of videos at home And before you go to bed, do a little stretching. Stretch your neck, your shoulders, and your arms. And don't forget your legs. Do some circles with your ankles. Point and flex your feet, and I promise you'll have a better night's sleep. There is something else very important you must do. Tell the ones that you love them. Hug those people and children you really care for. A big hug really goes a long way. If you have time, I want you to listen to a terrific song. It's by Tim McGraw. It's called Live Like You Were Dying. Live today and don't forget to pray. Love, Richard. Okay.
You being dramatic or what?
I mean, here's the thing. I think he was trying to find a way to encourage people to work out because that's what he does, right? And I think that he wanted to get attention on that first tweet, right? So you gotta, have a good hook, as they say, right? Good lead in. And so saying I'm dying, especially because it wasn't too long ago where people were like, Richard Simmons is missing, he's being held captive, right? So to come out and say I'm dying is obviously going to get people's attention. Well, I don't think, just as people don't read past the first kind of headline, I think other people just saw that first one and were like, oh my God, what's going on? So then later on that day, he says, sorry, many of you have gotten upset about my message today. Even the press has gotten in touch with me. I am not dying. It was a message about saying how we should embrace every day we have. Sorry for the confusion. Love, Richard. And then people are saying, obviously we got scared, but, it was a good message, blah, blah, blah. But then there's something else. On the next day, so that was the 18th that he puts the I am dying tweet out. The next day, he puts out another post. And he says, mirror, mirror on the wall, what's that blemish, which is so small? And he says, there was this strange looking bump under my right eye. I had a tube of Neosporin, which I would put on it in the morning and the evening. It was still there. Time to call the dermatologist. I sat in his chair and he looked through a magnifying mirror. He told me he'd have to scrape it, put it under a microscope. Now I'm getting nervous. And he comes back about 20 minutes later and says the C word. You have cancer. I asked him what kind of cancer. He said basal cell sarcoma. I told him to stop calling me dirty names. He laughed and he said you have to go to the cancer doctor. And basically in so many posts, he says that they had to burn it off. They had actually burned it off a couple of times. He couldn't cry. He's like, one tear rolled down my face because it hurt so bad. Now, did he know this? I mean, he's making it sound like this happened the next day. Could have been around the same time that led him to kind of question his own mortality. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Richard Simmons, while on one hand had a great message, on the other hand, is this kind of a cry for help? I don't know. I love Richard Simmons, though, and I totally understand why people liked him. Heather says he's eccentric and all, but he's not mean or malicious or a garbage person in any way. I completely agree with you. I feel like he doesn't want to be in the public eye anymore. Vilma says, I don't believe Richard Simmons has aged well. He might not have. And for someone that was making their living kind of being in good shape, and I would imagine he might still be in good physical shape. Maybe he doesn't like how he looks physically, as far as like maybe the hair, maybe this bump that's now a burned off scar on his face. Who knows? But I do think that his message was really nice. And I feel like if you are going to be somebody that's going to use your platform for a reason, I don't think that there's anything wrong with reminding people that you have a short time to live. I don't. And I don't think that anybody should be quote unquote upset at him for tricking people into reading his tweet. It was shocking. I will say that, like saying I'm dying. And then everyone's like, well, everyone's dying. From the moment you are born, you're dying. Your body is aging. It is, doing all these sorts of things. Like,
circle. Yeah.
We're all in a circle. Yeah, there's the peak. Like that whole, what was it? The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, remember? With Brad Pitt. Very interesting movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, you should totally see it. It was good. But yeah, you have to remember that. And so that brings me to my final story. One of my final stories. Because I saw this headline. The surprising reason this dad, and I do have a picture of him. Hold on. So this dad, his son right there, is turning 16. And see that car right next to him?
That's kind of nice for a 16-year-old.
That's a Mustang, baby.
Yeah.
Joe Tegardine was searching for an old beater car for his 18-year-old son, Joseph. But instead, he decided to buy his son a brand new Mustang. Now, you might be asking yourself, why the hell would you buy your kid a brand new? Now, this is a 330 horsepower Mustang. I mean, that thing is pretty right there. Yeah. I would love to drive that car. It doesn't look like a Mustang, though. I mean, I know that's just the side view, but that's a pretty nice car.
It's going to get dinged on all four sides, front, back, left, and right.
I mean, his kid's 18. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, my kid's about to turn, well, she's 15. She just turned 15. She's going to turn 16 next year. And I always am like, oh, she's going to get my car. She's going to get my Prius. It's a safe Toyota. She'll be fine. But so Joe Tegardine writes on Instagram. He's like, for those of you wondering why I'd buy my 18-year-old son a 330 horsepower Mustang, he says, well, he's been given months to live and can't work long enough to buy one himself. His comment on the way home, Dad, I'm going to squeeze a few extra months of life just to be able to drive this. His son has osteosarcoma. It's a rare form of bone cancer, and he's already outlived his prognosis. He had been trying to save money for a car, but when recent scans showed that Joseph's cancer had progressed, his parents decided to help make one of his dreams come true by buying him a Mustang. I know. As a result of the post, Joseph was personally invited by Ford CEO Jim Farley to visit Ford Performance Racing School, and he's going in April. The parents have asked their son what other bucket list experiences he wants, but he mainly wants to spend time with his family in Utah. He has a sister, and he has two sisters and a younger brother. He says, if you look at my day-to-day life, it's about as ideal as it gets. I've got my dream car. I have a family that I love, a girlfriend I hang out with all the time and that I love. I play piano, which I love. I read books that I personally pick on topics that interest me. It's fantastic. And he says, though he is incredibly sincere in counting his blessings, he hesitates when looking ahead. He says, feeling fulfilled in the future is the hard part, but I've managed to make my day-to-day life fulfilling for however long I have. And so it's like, I swear I'm getting all misty just thinking about it. You know, I think, you know, having the car, I love this. LAX Paint says, that's great. Yeah. Rent the car. Yeah, I think, you know what? I get that mentality. There's a difference between renting a car and the message that it gives your kid versus buying the car and giving your kid that message. It's like, I'm only renting this car because you don't have long to live versus here's the car. Enjoy it as long as you last. You know what I mean? Like, I just could not rent or do something like that and sit and give the kid. I mean, maybe you don't have to tell the kid, maybe lease it, but still, I think it's also what's in your own mind, right? Yeah. So apparently in 2019, Joseph complained of knee pain. He was only 13. He was active. So, you know, obviously you don't think much about it. Went in for an x-ray, required a follow-up MRI, and with a few days, he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, that aggressive bone cancer that mainly affects teens and young adults. The amount of time between Joseph's first x-ray and his first chemo treatment was just 10 days.
Wow.
He's had surgeries and had everything like that. And yeah, he has, you know, he had a bucket list and he wanted this car.
That poor family.
The Today Show asked him, they just asked the family what else they've done. They've done a whirlwind trip to Japan, which was another item on the bucket lists. They've had to cancel trips because of his bad diagnosis. So they're trying to get it in when he feels better. But yeah, I just bring up both of those two stories because Richard Simmons is right? It's one of those things where if you're not living, you're dying, right? So get busy living. It's just, you don't have a lot and you don't know what kind of curveballs you're going to be thrown. And so if it's a car, if it's a trip, if it's whatever, you know, get it done because you really honestly don't have that long to live. Life is extremely short. I did look up though, that Ford Performance School. It looks pretty freaking cool.
Yep.
So the website here, let me share the website page because I've always told James, my husband, like when my daughter starts driving, they have these defensive driving schools that are it's like driving school on steroids where they teach you defensive driving, right? So you learn how to maneuver out of spins. I don't know if that's what this necessarily is, but I think this is more of like race car driving.
Yeah.
Be the best driver you can be. Fine tune your high performance driving skills. Learn safe driving techniques and gain a fuller function. Well, thanks for changing, Ford. Basically, you can learn the best ways to drive the car. Unparalleled, exhilarating on-track driving instruction for every performance driving enthusiast. That has to be pretty freaking cool, man.
I went to something kind of like this.
Okay.
It was a promotion for I forget which anniversary of the Mustang. And so because I was at a radio station, they had our morning show go down to the racetrack, and we went to, I want to say it was Laguna Seca. I don't know, somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it was this big Mustang promotion. And of course, I'm the Mustang. I own a Mustang. Like at that point, I had a Mustang. And I learned so much. They put you in the car with a professional driver. And I was pretty young then. I was in my 20s. And I had always had a problem on twisty, windy roads. I kind of I didn't realize you were supposed to turn into it.
When you skid?
Yeah, no. Well, it turns out to take the turn tightly, you turn toward the line in the middle of the road. I was trying to stay away from it. You're supposed to be kind of hug that line.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, I learned a lot. I'm a much better driver because I went to that thing. I didn't have to pay for it, but it was a great experience. I really loved it.
Yeah.
To be able to open up that Mustang on that racetrack,
yes.
that was exhilarating.
I mean, Janet says my husband did the course at Laguna Seca. He loved it.
It was fun.
It's funny. Playing Mario Kart helps too. Yeah. I don't know how well I would do. It's not easy driving these race cars. I mean, from what I've heard from movies and people, like it is intense. It's hot. It uses obviously a lot of the muscles and everything like that. Phineas said I had a 1965 fastback and a Mustang Mach 1.
Wow.
Did 60 miles per hour in first gear.
Wowzers.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Heather says the car I had at 18 was a retired drag car. It was an absolute beast, but I'm not a risk taker in general, so I handled it just fine. Yeah. I just want to give my daughter and son, obviously when it's his time as well, just the skills to be able to handle driving, because again, you could think you know how to do everything, but be defensive and offensive. You know what I mean? If you're getting on the freeway, people, the gas is on the right. Don't be so hesitant that the people around you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that can also cause an accident. But anyways, back to the guy. I loved those stories. I really, really, really do. It is sad, but he's living. You know what I mean? He's living his life as much as possible. So, it's just, again, it's one of those things where you have to be thankful for everything in your life as much as you can. I know life gets hard and we get down in the dumps, but especially, we talk about politics, we talk about our rights being taken away. We can really spiral, right? Yeah. But yeah, just I wanted to end the show on I know it sounds like a down note, but it is an up note. Just appreciate things. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate Kim. I appreciate being able to do this show with you all the time. So
I appreciate it too. Speaking of which, let me throw one other story at you.
Please.
Very quickly. There's a new radio station in San Francisco. At a time when radio stations are closing down
in San Francisco, it says Seattle.
It does say that. It's a Seattle nonprofit radio station, KEXP FM, and they kicked off their first official Bay Area broadcast after they bought this bankrupt Bay Area radio station for $3.75 million. They're playing indie music.
Interesting.
It's on 92.7 FM. And
it's based in Seattle.
Yeah, kind of. But I guess maybe they're starting one here now.
Okay.
They're broadcasting here now, I think. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it also is a pretty sad state of affairs. Like, it's just
I know. It's not like they're hiring us, but still, I'd like to see a new radio station pop up. So,
exactly. I mean, that's
yeah.
interesting though. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a nonprofit. I just was Googling it. So it's
Yeah.
a nonprofit station. It is based in Seattle, but I guess they
Yeah.
bought the station,
frequency here,
the frequency
92.7
here.
FM. Mhm.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah.
You know, I will say, yeah, if I had $4 million, Calvin, you know, I'll buy my lotto ticket. How about that? I'll buy my lotto ticket.
Hey, if I won the big jackpot and that radio station was like, what, 4 mil?
Yeah.
And I had,
mean,
after-
$500 million?
after
Like,
the
come on,
government
dude.
raked out its half
Yeah.
and the taxes raked out their half, and I was left with 300 million? Sure, what's
Yeah.
4 million for a radio station?
That's crazy. Yeah, Blue Spar KEXP is a very good station in Seattle. They'll mirror it here, which KGO should do with KFI. I mean, KGO is just gone. You mean the spread that I've never listened to at all? Listener supported
tried.
station. That's what
No
this
can
is.
do.
Just
Yeah.
on YouTube. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I just like talking with y'all. You know, I've never done music, although I did have an internship at KSJO years
did.
ago when KSJO existed.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's all changed, people. That's why we love doing this show, and that's why we depend on all of you. So let's give some thank yous right away before we end the show. Spencer came in with a $5 donation to start us off. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Another big congratulations to new grandparent SJ Lola. Thank you for the $10. Have so much fun meeting your grandson. I am so excited for you.
Granny Lola.
I know. Luis with a $5 donation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then a huge thank you for the huge donation from Angel in the Bay Area. $50. Loving the Nikki Maduro show. We love you guys so very much. I am going to be off tomorrow. Kim is going to be here. Speaking of health issues, my daughter is having a procedure done tomorrow, so Kim's taking over. Just to let you know, Kim. Loretta Lynch is available tomorrow.
Yes.
So I think the email was sent to you. So you guys can bitch and moan for me harshly.
I have my PG&E blanket.
Oh.
Like, I'm fighting the heating bill. I'm not doing it.
You know, just to throw it out there, the landline debate,
Yeah.
because that's before the CPUC. I mean, also PG&E, shocker, not shocker, rated least for public utilities customer service. Yeah, no crap. So Loretta Lynch is always a wealth. She'll also be able to update that assembly bill to hopefully, you know, get some sort of control over all of these rate hikes. So that's always a good conversation. You won't want to miss it tomorrow. And depending on, I guess you'll also have Jefferson Graham on as well. So I will be back Friday. So I appreciate all of you. Stay here, though, for the Mark Thompson Show and, of course, the After Party Live with the fabulous Kim McAllister. I love you guys so much. I'll talk to you Friday, but be here tomorrow with Kim and Loretta Lynch. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're sprout like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.